Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Global Education's webinar tonight. We're going to be presenting something a little bit different that we've presented previously. We've got one of our key partners in the UK that we want to definitely share their information with you. We do know that there are some troubling times in South Africa, so we do wish our condolences and safe wishes to everybody there. Global has always been a preacher of education, and we believe that this is the best time for this information to come out to you all. So this evening, while we wait for everybody to sign in, we did have around 30 people registered for the webinar. We'll just give them a couple more minutes and I'll do some quick introductions. This evening, we're going to have Peter McLaughlin tonight. He's the On-Campus Partnership and Progression Director, and he's going to be presenting to you tonight a graduate employability trends and the futures of work and industry in the 21st century. Something that I've personally been affected with, and we'll definitely get into those questions later on in this webinar. And also tonight, we've also got Jennifer Bridges here, who you would have met last week with our On-Campus Boston webinar. And Jennifer is the regional manager for our region, and we work very closely with her. Jennifer is very lovely and welcomes us with having one-to-one interviews with all our students that are interested. And I do hope you enjoy this webinar. And as always, just a bit of housekeeping. Global Education helps students, counsels them. We do visa, we do the accommodation. We literally do it all for you to take that stress and anxiety away. So please do reach out to us, and I will be sharing all these videos and presentations with you as well. So enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Peter and Jennifer.
All right, thanks, George. Thanks so much for the introduction. Jennifer Bridges is my colleague. My name is, full name, I have to get it, is Peter McLaughlin, and I'm Partnership and Progression Director for On Campus, which is part of Cambridge Education Group, which is one of the best quality providers for pre-degree education, foundation programs, preparatory programs for international students going on to some of the best UK European universities, also UK, Europe and USA. So thank you, George, for this invitation this evening. So greetings from London here, yes. However, I have to be honest, I don't live in central London because it's even hotter in central London is where I am in North London. So thank you again for this invitation. My own background, if I share with you, thank you everyone for participating and listening. Obviously, I'm going to be talking significantly about the UK education scene, but I've been asked to give a topic which is very close to my heart of preparing next generation of young people coming through. I've been a teacher, a head teacher, a director or principal of a sixth form college, and also now university partnerships. So guiding pre-degree students onto the right degree program so that they have the right career path moving into their career as a graduate in their professional career. So part of my interest and research has always been this area, and I've been asked to share what I think in terms of the terrible year and a half or so that we've seen with the global pandemic affecting all of humankind, as to where are the trends now with all this uncertainty, all this difficulties that are not just in healthcare, but in industry, economies and everything else, of where is that next pattern of certainty or progress for the younger generations, particularly moving forward in their career path and their journey. So again, the talk will be about graduate employability, the global scene, based on research, based on international research that we can be authoritative with, and then the trends and the futures of the work in industries in the 21st century. I'm pretty well traveled. I always have a global perspective, and I encourage all our students working with us to have that global insight and perspective in what they do, not just because they're international graduates, but they will progress to be professional graduates from our best of universities in the UK, but also they will be global citizens, and they will be taking responsible positions in all their particular and professional careers to take on the next stage of development and progress in the world we live in. So I have a few technical problems here. So Jennifer's going to fix some slides for me. So just to put it in context, we have 8 UK leading centres which we work with as On Campus, and these are attached to some of the UK's most leading Russell Group and also leading universities for UK degree, undergraduate and postgraduate. Within those 8 centres, we also have 2 centres that actually means you can apply to any UK university from your studies with us at foundation or pre-degree level, whether that's undergraduate or postgraduate. And we have 2 leading centres in Europe and also in the United States. So today, though, I will be talking a little bit more about the importance of having a global, a recognized strong degree, whether that's UK, European, or American, or Asian, or African, but moving forward into that next stage of international career development and employability. So those are our partners. If I move on to where my research has been involved, basically, we have to acknowledge that the world has changed. We've seen significant transformation in many of our ways of life, and the way, not just with tragic loss in communities and families, but also significant impact with lockdowns, with panic buying, retail, and everything else being affected. All this has impacted on the whole economic, whether that's local or regional and global. And we need to anticipate now that things are going to be different, and therefore graduates of the future do need to be aware that these trends and these transformations have taken place. So I'm just going to offer an insight into what I believe are areas for younger students coming through, whether that's undergraduate or postgraduate, interested in international education, as to make the right decisions, the right choices, and have that open mind to make the right informed decision when they do so. If I share with you, even before 2020 and the pandemic, we were seeing changes already taking place in automation, innovation, all in digital technology, and that was already rapidly advancing because we've been part of the 4th industrial revolution for quite a while now, going back to the 1990s and the year 2000 onwards. Some people will say that with the rapid integration of AI in terms of production, IT, technology, cybersecurity, e-finance, having an economy that literally is cashless. I know that it might not be the case in our part of the world, but over in Asia, which I've been regularly visiting, China and the like, I've seen those problems, those developments coming with having a cashless side, which is fantastic. And some people say that's because of the digital age, the integration of AI in everything. So economic growth and the trends, it's difficult at the moment, but there is a way forward, and our leading financiers, our governments, whether that's the G7 or G20, they're taking stock of that situation, and we're seeing new developments with new emphasis of certain types of industries, improving employment growth. Particularly, we're seeing that within the STEM industries, and many of you, you'll have witness of that in your part of Africa, as we have in the West and the East. We're seeing tremendous employment prospects, but also investment that comes with it in healthcare, hence where we are with the vaccines in terms of pharmaceutical and biochemical and biomedical research. We're seeing tremendous changes here. And if I share with you, I know I've got the shard behind me, sorry, the wrong hand, shard behind me at the same, but we're seeing the difference now with what we call fintech, financial technology, e-commerce, e-finance, and the whole traditional way of banking has changed, is changing. And you've got new growth of banks and banking systems and different companies setting up, totally dependent on e-commerce. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through, but it's the impact of AI, artificial intelligence, integrated into technologies. And I don't just mean computers, and I don't just mean Zoom calls. I mean the whole aspect of products, whether they're electronic, engineering, smart cars, everything to do with transport, all this, and is related to digital AI integration systems, so as to make things more efficient. But we're seeing that digital technology rapidly advance now, particularly with the lockdowns, the lack of mobility, the lack of movement, the lack of national or even international travel. So these growth industries are going to require trained, skilled graduates to move into those industries and take that next stage of development and innovation and progress into those industries to the next part of the 21st century. And businesses as well, whether that's in manufacturing or in finance or in transport or marketing, all that has changed as well with digitization or the digital transformation that's taking place in every aspect of communications and marketing and promotion, etc. And so we will still have the need for traditional professional careers, whether that's medicine or law, but at the same time, those type of professions, and what if I describe them as occupations and industries, they have to change as well with digital transformation and digital technology to be abreast of the next demand for the 21st century. So it's a blend of traditional and modern subject degrees with careers and professional development that is affecting us all, which is really down to the digital age that we are now strongly in more than any other time. So if I can go through the other slides, I'll talk a little bit more about those skill sets that is believed that from whether it's my own research, but also coming from authoritative parties and organizations like the World Economic Forum, the WEF, or something that was very close to all of us. If you have a LinkedIn account or you work on social media, you'll find that they're more informed as well, and they're giving advice with LinkedIn, which is an important area of communication for professionals. But they're all saying the same consistent thing, which is the world has changed and we have to now be more adaptable, we have to be more creative, and we have to be able to be more managing the digital literacy that is so required now, like many of you are today, whether you're in school or college or university, or whether you're a professional lawyer or an IT specialist or a financier. The common denominator now is digital technology, which is making all these tremendous developments and power of communication and messaging that's so needed now, because, as I say, the face-to-face aspect with what we do, limited travel, restrictions, all that has now meant that this type of element of development in communication is now needed, and we need skill sets to manage that. So with the definition, if I share with you, this is a little bit more technical, because you've got soft skills, which we're all good at. By all of us today and everything we do, we've had to adapt to a new way of learning, research, communication. We've been creative. We've had to become creative, whether that's, I don't just mean creative software, but we have to, with that adaptability, we've had to be creative and showing initiative to develop that. And then the soft skills also, which is quite more technical, is that because we're doing virtual calls, everything is remote, we have to be a little bit more stronger in our communication skills or our persuasive skills, so that we're promoting. And also we have to be astute with our own form of empathy and listening, because it's quite easy for, as I get told, Peter, you talk too much. But at the same time, we have to listen. We have to take on board how the other participants and those people on those virtual conferences or those school groups that we have at the moment, listening to them as well, so that we feel that it's a collective, because we've got to replace that relationship, that interaction with different types of skills and ability. Then there are the hard skills, which is really proven by the background of your skill set, whether you are that confident in digital literacy or digital tools and technology. And with that, you've got certain groups of industries and platforms that are now being created, which is a part of the response to the pandemic, where there's a lot of talk now about the cloud computing, a lot of talk now about design, software design, computing, for supply and logistics. These are strong areas now, because the world's been disrupted. Everything has been disrupted. So you've got skill sets that are required from certain types of occupations that are moving forward to make sense of returning us to a new normality. And in different parts of the world, that's at different levels and extremes. But with that new normality, and it will return, we have to be positive and optimistic to know that's going to happen. But a different type of skill set is going to be required, soft and hard skills. Whether your interest is in finance or business, we have to start understanding a bit more about what's called blockchain. We have to understand about e-currencies. We have to take on board that, although we're suspicious about Bitcoin and everything else for these last 10 years, these industries within the traditional industries are now actually making a real impact with the way forward for the next 21st century. So again, it's all about adaptability, agility, working together, understanding the facts, and also listening and talking with experts who actually have that sort of vision and that application and know what they're talking about. So if we move on to the next slide, and this is again just my general advice. If you're a younger person, you're interested in studying abroad internationally, and that you're thinking of studying at degree level, maybe a different country, whatever, but at the same time, you have to research things quite carefully, and everyone has to start with themselves, and that's self-reflection and review on one's own personal interests, subject enthusiasm, motivation, mindset, positive mindset, whether that's to life, work, or study. Those are going to be quite important. No one's saying that you've got to, you know, aim to be an IT specialist, whatever. What it is, you've got to work within one's strengths and talents and interests, and that's going to be powering one forward at whatever stage in one's life and journey to actually achieve and achieve more and to achieve your best. So that sort of self-evaluation, or I call it self-leadership, reflection is so important. And talking with counselors, teachers, family, agencies that are especially expert like global education in that field, they can give much more of advice and support to give you the best informed decision, so that you've consulted as many people as possible. So whether you're a student, counselors would do the same, teachers would be keen to contribute as well. So you're getting that full 360 type perspective. I don't need to go through every slide, but this is general advice. If one was considering a university, you would look at obviously the location, whether you're comfortable with the city, the metropolitan location, or rural. So this is just general advice, but most importantly is to research carefully the quality of those universities, not just what you read in the newspaper or on the league tables, but also their reputation and the student satisfaction of telling you how things have been, even in this pandemic year, with remote learning and the quality of teaching, but also its own focus when you have that blended approach, or when things return to blended or face-to-face. So be a little bit more critical of that, and know that you need to look at not just the ranking of that university, whether it's UK or US, but also its global rankings, because then you know that you're going to be taught by some of the world's best professors, minds, departments, who are very concerned for the individual, very concerned for their subject area, and want to be at that front edge of development and innovation and enterprise. So I've just listed at the bottom, sorry for the print, George, but I've got at the bottom there just a list of what I would consider to be, if you have interest in business and management and STEM related subjects particularly, you've got some of the top 100 business schools that come under what I call the Triple Crown accreditation, and that will come out with one or two of the examples that we'll be talking about of the universities that we work with. Myself, I have to say that is quite a while ago, but I'm a Cambridge graduate. But when I left my university, I was very anxious and very ambitious to teach and keep that teaching fresh, to have equality, and to inspire young people for that next stage of their learning and their generation of society and everything else with the contributions they make. Moving forward. So, yep. Most important out of those slides there is going to be the one I'm going to talk about shortly, again, of the examples of the trends in the future of work and industry. So that this is from my point of view and our point of view research of those industries that are growing significant surges in development for this next stage of the year 2021-22 onwards. And then I will refer a little bit more about how it's important to research carefully the universities in terms of their success with graduate employability, innovation, and support that they get, because they too, like in all fields of learning and everything and knowledge, they have to change as well. And so that's why it's important to be up to date on some of this. So next slide. Oh, this, yes, so aim high. Summary here, research deep, consult as many other colleagues and participants, listen to what other people have to say, and then engage in that learning responsibly, which I'm sure all of you do by coming in on this call. You will obviously have that positive mindset already and that interest. But most importantly is that to take on board the fact that the skills portfolio, as I call it, or the skill set required now, is so important to get that right and be in the right place of learning with the right group of people and as a learning community to learn as much as possible so that you're well prepared for that next stage of professional development and, well, graduation first, but professional development in whatever you do. So these are the subject industries. Sorry, if I go on to the next slide. And this is interesting because it's pretty universal. And I know that many of you are interested to know particularly how things are in maybe South Africa or Europe or America. But if we look at the evidence that's coming through from some of the world's leading authoritative sources, whether that's the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, or KPMG, McKinsey, these are global experts in the area of industry management, assisting governments, assisting global industries so as to improve and adapt to the future. So, and they're all pretty consistent because what we're identifying is the tremendous emphasis now of the surge of the need to get it right, to expand and make sure that health sciences, medicine, healthcare, because that's significant response also to the pandemic, which is affecting all of us globally, but also in education. So these particular sector employments are seeing already an interest in this last year. If you're interested in being a doctor, for example, ONCAMPUS has a lot of good programs that helps you guide onto that professional career if you're needing a foundation course, whether that's for undergraduate study. But it's interesting is that we're seeing a 26% increase in university applications to go into to be a medicine, to go into medicine, to be a doctor, to go into nursing and physiotherapy. So those industries now are very keen and recruiting significantly for students wanting to go into those professional fields. I'm not sure if I'll have enough time, George, to go through everything, but if you're interested in you've got that maths ability in terms of looking at things, you've got a feel for number and figures, then these are surges now, particularly for supply and demand, logistics and transport, trying to make sense of a whole year or more where there's been very limited airline flights in and out of countries, shipping's been disrupted, transport as well. About London, where I've been for a while in the first wave, it was locked down and there was hardly anything on the motorways and the cars and transport, except the public transport was continuing to run, even though most of the buses and trains were empty at that time. Different story now, obviously. Where there's been interest also, particularly is that field of STEM subjects, that's sciences, technology, engineering, and the mathematics. So again, engineering in general, whether that's biotechnology engineering or mechanical, electrical, it's tremendous surge into our universities of students making decision to go into those graduate fields, undergraduate and postgraduate, and those professions. And that's something to note very carefully, because those areas of technology, is my belief, you're going to get new products, new developments, new media platforms and so on. But those are areas of business. Those are areas of investment. Those are areas of management and finance too. So it comes together with new ideas, new products. You'll have the whole aspect of other industries. So you don't necessarily have to be a scientist to actually, well, be a scientist if you want to be an engineer, but at the same time, you've got those other industries, whether that's marketing, industry, investment, finance, that's all part of that growth and field of activity. What we're finding in the universities also is there's strong interest in energy management, manufacturing, but also energy and sustainability in the environment. This is because the world has changed and there is now more emphasis on those areas of clean energy, those areas of sustainability, these are areas which are now looking at big surges in recruitment for the degree courses, but also the industries wanting highly skilled, informed graduates, knowledgeable graduates who have that skill set to move into those industries, as other areas are suffering, whether that would be retail, or, for example, or which is now all online, obviously e-commerce, as it probably is globally. Other areas that are seeing sector improvement and a significant increase of occupations and career investment is technology itself and computing. Big surge of wanting to study artificial intelligence in its different forms, in different shapes of different degrees. Another surge is because everything is online, or all the communication that we have now, whether we're doing e-shopping or shopping online or e-banking, different accounts in terms of social media, that all needs to be held securely and protected. So cybersecurity is seeing a tremendous surge, whether that's for companies, corporates, etc., big industries, or the smaller concerns, even for our own personal accounts and our own sort of safeguards that we need on our own, whether that's LinkedIn or Yahoo or Facebook or whatever. So strong surge of interest now in students wanting to study and graduate in the field of cybersecurity and AI. If you have a strong skill set in maths, then there's always the interest of just doing maths itself, because from that, from an undergraduate course, you can then give shape to that next professional career that you so decide, whether you go into STEM-related subjects or go into business and the like. So maths gives you the quantitative skills. So if you excel in that, then you've got probably more range of options and choice. The world of finance has changed. And with that also is because now we're looking for understanding of business analytics, trying to understand a little bit more how, if people aren't going to the high street or wanting to shop, therefore, you know, a lot of the stuff is purchased, consumed by online, and then you have the delivery, and then you've got all the logistics delivering to the home environment. That's all perfectly normal response to what we've seen, and it's pretty global at the moment. But trying to understand those trends and those analytics, this is now a really hot area for students. So to have an interest, obviously, in business management, you need to study a modules or even a degree in business analytics. The way companies also promote their products, that's changed as well. Obviously media now, whether that's television, channel, Sky, whatever, but digital marketing now is a skill set that anyone entering into that field of business management and marketing needs to develop. And you've now got here in the UK, many excellent universities, many leading universities that are offering the skill set and the specialized degree as digital marketing itself. Yeah. And then of course, we need to see the bigger picture, as we've seen significantly with this disruption throughout the world, economies have struggled. Central banks and governments are going to extreme debt ratio so as to ride out this year or two. World banks, national, supranational organizations helping to assist as well. So the thing is that it's given us an opportunity to step back a bit and say, well, you know, maybe we should be re-looking at the way the world's economies work and what our priorities are. So there's a lot of positive, good thinking going on now in the field of economics, trying to make sense of that next stage of economic growth and development, of where to take a country's economy in relation to other countries and the global picture, also more importantly for you and me, local and regional. So fresh thinking now is being found in terms of that field of economics and government advice and guidance, and that impacts obviously for interests of students who might be interested in politics or social policy and government advice. Being qualified as an economist is now very popular, especially if you're open-minded to fresh ways of thinking and looking at things and taking on new ideas, new understandings, and listening to the fact that the planet is suffering. We've seen a lot of significant focus now on climatic change, and we have to live with that and address that in the decades to come. I remember when I was at Cambridge University, I'm going to digress, George, but I studied up in Switzerland. We were studying glacier and glacier meltwater, and the rapid decline of one of the glaciers there near Mont Blanc. And it's interesting, no one was listening at all to our research at that stage of how we're saying, hang on, there's global warming here, and this is like 1970s, but not that much interest. But today, it's a serious issue that we all have to address because it impacts on everything. So again, fresh thinking in the field of economics, and also the way that industry works with the finance, and that too, we need to take on board. Obviously, everything carries a degree of uncertainty and risk. No one's got all the full answers, but you need to keep abreast of the new developments and new technologies that are powering up the way that we deal with finance and cash and investment and so on. As I say, everything carries risk, hence the reason for financial analysts or business analysts to make sense of what those possible problems are and difficulties or the trends will be. In terms of the skill sets, what we are noticing is that employers, industry, here in UK, in Europe, things are returning to some form of new normality. So we're returning to work here. We've got a Freedom Day, which is scheduled for July the 19th. We'll see what happens with that. But at the same time, everyone is returning, not everyone, but most people are returning to work. Offices of headquarters offices alike have been empty for a good year or so. And now there's that return of mobility and transition and activity. But we have to take stock of the skill sets required now, because we have to address what I would describe as a post-pandemic world. And so therefore, strong interest now, particularly with postgraduate students interested in project and program management, because you have to show agility and adaptability to deal with any situation. Like the shard behind me there at the moment might look attractive as an icon here in London, but at the same time it's half empty, and therefore, you know, offices, headquarters are now relocating and people working from home, and those industries, whether it's in finance, have been powering forward almost productively as they had been before, when everyone had to commute into London and have that experience and then commute home again. So maybe now with the success of productivity of professionals working from home, there is the question is this the way forward? And it probably is. It's going to be blended, but people are now asking, what are we going to do with the office space? You know, do we turn it into more apartments, whatever? So project program management in all aspects of dealing with the difficulties that have come from this significant year or more of disruption, and the ability to make things happen and deliver results. So key areas, particularly for postgraduate students, if there are colleagues or participants interested for advice for that. Leadership is important, but also seeing the bigger picture. And this is why one has to really take on board what all the other issues might be, and listen hard to whether that's your customers or your clients or your colleagues working, your working peers, your students, or in the office or in the industry, to actually see that the world now is probably definitely more complex than what it was before. So therefore, the decisions that have to be made need a strong ability with an attribute of making those decisions, but in a strategic way, and being part of that teamwork with others. Not necessarily to be the CEO and the leader, no doubt quite a few of you might be interested in doing that, running your own companies and being significant in those professional fields, but it's working together. It's that collaboration of meeting of minds with other people and trying to understand the complexity involved, so that when an informed decision is made, it's going to be more chance of being the right one collectively, moving things forward. And it may be a brave decision that's needed, which does take a lot of research and time, but at the same time, we need, for this 21st century, in a way, we need bold, brave individuals, whether they're at whatever stage, to move forward with global humankind moving forward into the next stage of our society. Innovation and entrepreneur mindset. I think I can give plenty of examples of the universities I work with. I've been interviewing professors leading in this field, and they also, you know, there's a complexity, but they're saying, well, we've got to think differently. We've got to innovate. We've got to move forward in terms of creating opportunities for development, whether that's technology, whether that's the way we work with people. The pandemic's affected a lot of people in many ways, not just in the tragic aspect of healthcare and families being affected, but also motivation, psychology. This is a popular area now with our universities trying to make sense of what we've all been experiencing and moving forward to solve some of those more difficult problems that we are facing, but also globally. And obviously we're looking to different nations in different parts of the world and looking for America to return, but then even the world pioneering region of Silicon Valley and everything that you attribute to Microsoft and everything, that's all changed as well. So again, we need to be aware of those changes and have that entrepreneurial attitude, that new things and new developments, as it did with previous serious world conflicts before, like whether it's the First or Second War, you see innovation coming from that. And then communication skills. Well, for those of you are still with us at the moment, finding that communication skill, because we have to address things on a virtual platform now for the moment. And that does require a certain degree of skill and willingness to learn, whether that's a different platform or software or whatever. But it's getting that balance right between blended approach, working with people, maybe having to do all virtual work on a conference, whatever, doing it remotely, which means you miss out on that human interaction, but getting that balance and that skill set right. Because even with blended teaching or learning that one may have in school or college now, one has to anticipate probably for the next, maybe forever, but maybe definitely for the next 5 years or so, we need that blended approach in the professional areas we work. If you actually speak to architects or financiers or people involved in business, they will tell you that they've been working on a remote blended platform for a number of years already, and that, you know, the original place of one place of work or one office, now that's all changing. And so international graduates need to be aware of that, as that they'll need that skill set so as to adapt and be agile in all forms of communication, and having that skill set to go. And then the gift that many of you have with your gift for languages already, most important to have as many acquired languages as possible so that you can improve in terms of your own professional development and give that talent that you have to the company or the industry that you'll be working with in the future. And that makes you more employable, that makes you more attractive if you're looking particularly at the world stage, whether that's to do with trade or education or healthcare. The gift in languages is so important now in the world we live in. Move on, another slide. I don't know, how's that sound, George, with what I've just covered? Yeah, with the emphasis on the new skill sets that now has been expected of generations to come.
Peter, you are making me want to look at my career again and where my goals are. So,
George, I don't think so. But you're already highly skilled in what you do. But having an interest in education for learning, and it has to be for, because I'm afraid that's going to be required of all of us because of where we are in the future. Myself, I haven't just worked in education. I've worked in development. I've done a lot of international work as well. So all have to adapt to that stage of different careers. So just to give a snapshot now to the participants and the audiences, is with these are some of our strongest on-campus partners, and we've got some universities that excel in the world rankings in what I call the QS 100. So you've got University of Southampton, you've got Aston. These are ones I'm going to be particularly talking about in a moment. You've got other centres, ones that I used to run with is On Campus London. So this is just a snapshot, but it shows you the strengths of those particular learning environments and those communities for international students. If we go on to the next slide, this is again just a quick checklist to identify what we call the one-to-one pathways. So if you have an interest and you've done your research and you've been consulting carefully with experts and you decide, yeah, I like Aston University, so that would be a pre-degree program with on-campus Aston leading to Aston University, whether that's for medicine, engineering, IT, social sciences. So this is what we call one-to-many. So these are our portfolio of subjects of universities for subjects that lead onto those particular universities. And you would study a pre-degree foundation, normally over 3 terms, to prepare best for that academic shift into those particular learning environments in UK academic culture. So we have Aston, on campus London South Bank, on campus Sunderland. We've got several universities in the north of England where the cost and value is a little bit less than it is in the London area or the southeast. You've got on campus Reading, which again is there on our portfolio for more details. And then we have Hull, and then we've got 2 other centres in Europe, world leading QS ranked University Amsterdam, which is very attractive for those students who are particularly interested in wanting to study in Europe. Yeah. Then we have what we call one-to-many centres. And the centre that I've oversaw for a good 10 years or so is on campus London, which has strong partnerships and relationships with University of London colleges. And for international students, there's always the attraction to London for about 50% of students who come from overseas and study. On campus London gives a platform very similar to the programs that you study with our one-to-one centres, but gives you the option of choices of applying to nearly any of the UK universities. Mostly there would be London University, Queen Mary, or King's College, or Royal Holloway, and the like. And that's done because those centres, particularly for London and the other centre is called UK North, deliver what we call the UCAS applications, University Central Application Scheme, giving you that option. So on campus London has an exciting array of pathways, as does on campus UK North, which is based up in Preston. And that's more STEM related subjects. If you're interested in medicine, healthcare, engineering, that would be the centre, particularly if you want to train to be a doctor, would be our UK North Centre, giving you the options of progression onto UK medical school or Irish or even European medical schools. And then we have another one-to-many centre, which is in Sweden at Lund University. Again, it's a world top ranked university that welcome international students. And there again, there's the opportunity of progressing to several of leading Swedish universities and institutes from the education and preparation that you have based with on campus Lund, Sweden. Again, this is a quick snapshot, George, running through. Next slide. Yep. Quick summary of the university partners that we closely allied with, working with in terms of quality and progression and success of our students. On the left-hand side is the pathways. So again, an informed decision carefully, because with your foundation, you will be making a step towards having that specialized program so that you can lead on to your degree that you're particularly interested in specializing at undergraduate or whether it's postgraduate. So we have the art and design pathway, which is with a few of our centers, giving you the tremendous options of progression into the arts, creative arts and design, and that's including architecture as well. And that will be with your Southampton or your London or your Reading campus. Very strong interest in business, economics and finance and management as a pathway. We have tremendous success with progression of thousands of students going on to leading business schools for finance, for economics, for management, marketing and the like. And that's found in nearly all our centers. Again, range of options and choice for you. For my knowledge of interest in careers and development with South Africa, there's a strong interest in engineering, STEM subjects. And again, the pathways can be found in nearly all of our university partners. We have websites, we have prospectus and portfolios, and also questions coming up I can see, which we can respond to give you more information. But that area of engineering is going to cover Also biomedical engineering. It's not just going to be mechanical. It may well be automotive and so on. So you've got a whole range of options there. With obviously your interest will come from your sciences and your mathematics if you have good talent for that subject area. If you have interest in psychology, social sciences, or particularly want to make an impact in the area of a professional legal career in terms of law, doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a lawyer. It could be a law degree leading on to politics or government or social policy or even business. Again, that's found in nearly all our centres and our different pathways. So with the, one area I will mention, so we call those the UFPs, pre-bachelor programs, preparation, PBPP if it's the European Centre. Those are highly successful with tremendous progression rates moving on to the degree for students for undergraduate study with our host universities, our partners, and nearly all the top leading UK ones. We do have some special programs as well. We've got a University of London IFP where we've had students from your region before to come on to a University of London program, preparing students to apply to, if they wish, the opportunity of applying to LSE and some of the more competitive top-ranked universities that we have in the UK. And again, distinct pathways there with business, economics, finance, and law. If you're a student who's done a year at university and you want to move, you want to change, you're thinking of studying abroad, then we have a programs called IY1, which allows you to go straight into a program with us if you have to boost up your academics or your language, but giving you that year of preparation then to progress on to year 2 of the university first year degree. Most of our degrees, as you probably know, are 3-year majors, and therefore the IY1 is an accelerated route onto that course. Might be of interest for some students who have the need for just improving their academic skills or for their language skills to make that jump onto the IY1 to move forward onto the year 2 of that degree of that university department, whether that's business, engineering, humanities, if you're with on-campus Aston, or business in those other areas for London, LSBU that is, Sunderland, London with the choice of universities for London to progress on to year 2, or Hull. So again, all there on our website, all there for more information on those particular learning environments and centres that we have as part of On Campus. How are we doing? Yep. And really, you know, check the evidence, look for the information you have, because we are part of QAA. We have to assure that anything we're saying and doing is quality assured. So by looking at that information and asking questions, you'll see how successful our students are year after year, with progression from whether that's on campus London or UK North, one of our one-to-many, going on to top 50 UK universities and more. This is just a quick snapshot of some of the students from the last 2 years where they've been progressing. And then we have the on-campus guaranteed partners and affiliates, which I've listed already: on campus Aston, South Bank, Southampton, Reading, Hull, Sunderland. And there's more of a guaranteed placement with offers for students. They've still got to work hard, still got to get the grades and prove themselves with entry requirements, but progression onto those partners and affiliates with proven evidence again. But having made that decision, not just on campus, but on those universities being the right inspiring environment and learning environment for them to qualify with their degree. Again, whether that's undergraduate or postgraduate. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Next slide. Jenny, I'll relay to you. I'm just going to, with the University of Southampton, which is one of our recent engagements. Interesting, I have family who've studied at Southampton in the past, but now this is one of our new partnerships, which is just launched, which I think is very exciting to hear more from you, Jenny, if you can describe how important university is in their chosen field of being a top 100 world university.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. So yeah, I'm very happy to talk to you a little bit about the University of Southampton and on campus Southampton. So University of Southampton has just recently moved up 13 places in the QS World Rankings to 77th in the world. It's a founding member of the prestigious Russell Group. So for those of you who aren't quite sure what the Russell Group is, that's a group of 23 elite UK universities committed to the highest level of education and teaching and research. And universities such as Oxford and Cambridge are also part of that prestigious group. So that gives you an idea of the level of the type of university that Southampton is. Southampton is top 15 in the UK. Peter mentioned earlier the importance of looking at degree programs that offer a 4-year degree with 1 year in industry or working. And Southampton offers that opportunity through all of their degree programs, which is actually unusual among Russell Group universities. So a great way to study at a great university to choose if you want to study at a top UK university and to be able to take advantage of a year in industry. Please keep in mind that those placements are usually paid, and students generally earn about £17,000 per year when they do their year in industry, and they still remain a member of the university. Your fees will drop to about 20% for that year, but you'll still have that strong link to the university, as you'll still be a student for the entire time. You can take advantage of all of the university's facilities and support. The university is also home to the world's leading university business incubator. So that's based at the Science Park at University of Southampton, and that gives students an opportunity to start their own businesses. And it gives startup support for high-tech, high-growth businesses. So everything from the facilities that you need to start your business as a student to matching you up with professional advice and business mentors. We really hope that you're as excited as we are about this new partnership with University of Southampton, and that you'll join us or consider joining us at OnCampus Southampton.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's a denominator that's common with all our university partners. Every one of them will offer a 4-year program with a year in industry. Sometimes they call it professional placement as an alternative namesake, but this is an excellent way of building up the skill set and also one's own confidence in what one's learning, but in an applied way, in working with the company, whether it's project management or in that particular subject area that they wish to study. So this is quite important, George, that year in industry gives those students that skill set and that confidence and that competence, but also the networking opportunities, and also something really impressive to go on their CV. And quite a number of graduates now who have done those programs are offered work in that company or in that industry after they graduate. And hence the partners we've got, Southampton is excellent. Another one is Aston, where they have high 95% or more employability for their graduates as they move forward. Some of them obviously setting up their own enterprise, and this is Aston, one of our leading universities that has a reputation proven with the awards it's won recently, the accolades for being the outstanding entrepreneurial university of the year, whether that's the Times Higher, which is one of our leading authoritative media platforms for research on universities, but it's also regarded in the top 100 in the world for its business and management. And of course it's encouraging students to be entrepreneurial, to have interest, whatever their subject is. It doesn't have to be just business and finance. It can be engineering, it can be social science, it can be social work. It's taking that entrepreneurial approach, whether it's social entrepreneurial or hard financial entrepreneurial with setting up new banking systems and finance systems. So this is another high achieving university where our students are very pleased with the progress of the university. And again, we are very proud to be working with them. And I think another aspect that's worth taking into account is the quality of the teaching found with our partners. And because you want to be taught by some of the best people, but also the best learning resources, libraries, research, and that inspirational effect that many of these professors, senior lecturers and lecturers have in giving shape to that curriculum and giving shape to that understanding, whether that's blended, virtual, or face-to-face. Yeah. So just highlighting a few more aspects going on from some of the information that we've had so far. I'm conscious of time as well and how late it might be in the evening. And anything going to happen there? Otherwise, we can take question and answers. No?
For some reason, the slides don't seem to be moving on. I'm not quite sure why.
No problem.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, yep.
Has it moved on just one, or has it moved on?
Yeah, this is a progression track record, which is highly regarded from the on-campus London, particularly if you have interest in business, finance, economics, management. And this is where students progress to every year with good numbers, and we're talking of hundreds of students here progressing on to the whole range of quality UK universities. Yep. This is a very exciting subject area, which is now proving to be very popular with strong interest in biomedical engineering. This is from On-Campus Aston, which has a world-class reputation. Again, giving students the opportunity of a year in industry. So it's a 4-year major, but the pandemic, with the rapid development of vaccines and the programs with the rollout, it's varied in its response in different parts of the world. I understand that, but all that intensive research over the last 2 years has paid great dividends in terms of us trying to manage and cope with this particular pandemic. But out of it has come tremendous research and opportunities for higher level of innovation in pharmaceutical and in the biomedical and technology industries. And that's quite exciting because a lot of pioneering work, say for example, if it's AstraZeneca or the Oxford vaccine, much more work has now come in to make its mark with cancer treatment and cancer prevention and so on. So we're seeing tremendous surges now in that particular industry, whether it's in the field of pharmaceutical or technology innovation and that whole scope of medicine and healthcare. So again, biotech, pharmaceutical, healthcare industries are forecast to rise and make a difference significantly in the next 5-10 years and beyond, as we now understanding the gene and DNA and all those codes much more effectively than we did before, and getting it right in terms of treating other world diseases and illnesses. Okay, so that's On-Campus Aston, which is a tremendous place to study. That has leading research in those areas and also making a great impact in local, regional and national industries. We have more information on our websites. We have lots of links. If you go onto On-Campus, you'll see a lot of our links to websites, into my interviews with professors. Sorry, I sometimes, George did say I could talk for as long as I want, but I'm not going to, thank you. But I think it's 2.5 hours is a record, but not on screen, but that's in presence in a lecture theatre because I enjoy teaching as well. So again, lots of information found on our website and links and social tiles to give you more of the bigger picture with your interest in wanting to study, if it is to be the UK or studying abroad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also, George, you may know, Course Finder search, which you just simply put in the name of the study centre or the name of the subject you want to study, and then it just links into all the information and knowledge that you need to be more informed about, whether that's for undergraduate or postgrad master's level. So it's like a filter again.
And
efficiency.
Pro tip for everybody, that link in that course finder is very widely used by us. It is, and we will share that link in the newsletter as well. So I will definitely grab that link and send it through to everybody, so you all have access to it directly while listening into on this webinar.
Were there any questions on that line, George? I'm not sure. Yeah,
Peter, I think you spoke well, and you answered a lot of things, that a lot of the questions that we had prepared for this webinar with a lot of different counselors. One question that kept popping up was, what's the real benefit of doing a foundation? I know you spoke briefly on it through different courses and the different structures and the rankings and that, but what's the one real big benefit to a student in doing one of these pathway programs?
Jennifer, you can feel that, but my response will be, because remember again, I've been a head teacher talking, I've been a whole career in education. Yeah, on foundation students, international foundation students tend to do as well and even better than students who apply direct when they apply from a different education system or a different sort of academic culture, they take the foundation course that I call them pre-degree, and it gives them that level of insight into what's expected academically, because the approach of particularly UK and maybe Western approach is going to be based on critical thinking and problem solving, and the nature of whether that's formative, like coursework assessments or examination assessments, it's all very solid preparation. And we base our foundation teaching and our courses more or less mirroring what's going to be expected at degree level, whether that's graduate or postgraduate. So it's again that aptitude, that ability of skill set, academic skill set in real readiness. And also it gives students the opportunity to understand a little bit more about UK culture, society, adaptability. You may be even well traveled, but then, you know, making that decision of transition does take a lot of challenges, not just academically, but also personally, the challenge of moving away from home, family, and all that. And that's why a foundation course gives you that level of competence, confidence, and experience to move forward so that you do well on that degree course. Most important is that we're preparing students to achieve, not just to get on the degree course, but to achieve high on their degree course, so that they'll actually get a very strong academic outcome from their first degree or their second degree. That'll make a difference to their international career and employability factor of getting a first-class honours or a 2-1. That's what I find with my experience, and that's the feedback with university partners as well.
I'd also like to, sorry, George.
Sorry, Jennifer. Sorry, Jennifer, go ahead.
I'd also like, thank you, Peter. I'd also like to add to that students from South Africa who've completed the matric, or students from Zimbabwe who've completed A-level, should keep in mind that if you're not eligible for direct entry, the international year one, which isn't offered in every subject, but is offered in a wide range of popular degree progressions, could be a very good option for you, because rather than a 1-year foundation followed by 3 years undergrad, you'd be able to join the international year one, which would give you progression to the second year of a degree. So do keep that in mind. And Peter just listed a lot of the key advantages to doing a foundation, and those all apply to international year one as well. And also it's a great opportunity to do the first year of your degree in smaller class sizes, and actually gives you the opportunity to, in many cases, perform better than you would going into kind of large lecture halls and larger classes. In your first year in the UK, it gives you some time to settle in and gives you a little bit more support, more hours in the classroom as well. And then also there is an advantage to students who've completed a 3-year degree in South Africa doing a master's foundation program. Usually you won't be eligible for direct entry to university. Some universities will accept you, but you could do a short pre-masters. South African students can quite often do a 2-term pre-masters program and progress to a master's program in the UK. So do keep that in mind.
Absolutely. When I was Centre Director at London, we had some really successful students from South Africa and Southern Africa, and they thrived, and many of them going into leading degree universities. But look at our testimonials, check our website, you'll see their stories and their encouragement, and also more opportunity to actually gain that insight as well by talking to our students and talking to previous alumni. And that's an opportunity we can provide as well. Not necessarily from every township or town or city or country, you know what I mean? But we've had some really successful students, but it's achieving more. That's quite important. That's our phrase, because you achieve more with foundation, not just for the course, but for the degree and then that professional graduate entry as you move forward.
I've got an interesting question here for you, Peter. I know we spoke a lot on STEM and the sciences and math and the business, and we're always going to give one question about the other side of things, the arts. Can you advise on, the types of pathways for somebody that really wanted to do the dramatic arts, for example? And the second question to that is, how could you relate the dramatic arts to the future? maybe the new type of journalism that we're seeing out in the market. You know, what are your thoughts and ideas on that?
My thoughts would be to pick up the phone and speak to my son and daughter, actually. My youngest son is trained, he did foundation leading on to architecture. My youngest daughter, Catherine, specialized in textile and fashion. Also, my background, I used to be a principal of art and design and drama college as well, where we worked with Royal Academy. So again, the propensity of strong interest in the arts, it depends on what you define by the arts, but I would say go for it. If it's your passion, if it's your strength and your interest and your motivation, drive forward. You may have to adapt, that you may not get straight onto television or film or the performing arts. As you say, you may need to go into journalism and the media platforms. You have to adapt with so many industries now involved in the field of arts, communication and media. Yeah. If you're asking me for a recommendation, any of our partner universities would be good. I think if it's theatre, you mentioned, George, for that interest coming through, film, the digital age where we are now has brought all that as an industry forward. Whatever partner you want to work with, I mean, there's one interview I did with a professor of the University of Reading, and he wasn't actually proclaiming with good success of how the film school is, but industry of Hollywood has noticed how good the film school is on their campus and is now setting up a social streaming film studio on their campus. And at the time he said, oh, Peter, don't mention the company, but I think we know who it probably will be. Yes. But there's tremendous opportunities there with University of Reading, tremendous opportunities with Winchester School of Art and Design for Southampton. Royal Holloway is another strong one. If it's London, that's attractive. Film, television, theatre is very strong there. You'll find that all our partners, there's something there for every of interest. But to answer your question, though, it's the passion for the subject that's going to drive one forward. And you may have to adapt with different jobs, careers, industries, but in the end, that passion and that motivation will drive you towards the success and the sense of accomplishment and achievement. And I believe in that, whatever your skill set and interest might be. Yeah, that passion for that energy is so important to drive forward that creativity. But adaptability and agility is so important now, particularly in the work that we see now with this 21st century, which I've already mentioned already, you know, highlighted.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really see that from my own experience in studying and doing a degree in international business, but then being involved in logistics and supply chain management. You know, it was a case of seeing where the market was going and how I could pivot my own career in terms of what's going to benefit me, not just long term, but also with that financial side of things. And that's probably a good segue to lead into Lethabo's question here, who's on the webinar, who's asking, what is the employment rate for students who've studied from the provided universities that you showcased?
Oh, right. Good question, Jenny. I think it's nearly all of them. It's about 95, 94%. Some of them even higher, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't think there's anyone below 95%. Students who are in full-time education or employment post-study. And some of the centres, such as Hull, actually will break that down to international students, which most universities don't do. And I think 2 years ago, their statistics were 99% of their international students were in full-time work or further education within 6 months of graduation. And that's a really good statistic to check. All universities will publish that information on their website.
Yeah.
And that is important. It's important, definitely.
Well, you mentioned University of Hull, particularly it's strong in engineering, STEM subjects. Yeah. And also it's a little bit further away from London and the southeast. So the cost of living, the cost and value of everything is much more affordable. So that's something to consider as well. Looking at certain regions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that it's not just about what you study in the ranking. It really is about your passion and the support that you surround yourself with that's going to help you benefit and you know, in whatever course you choose. The lady that asked the question about the dramatic arts, she sent through another question here, which was she's quite passionate about psychology as well, and was asking opinion, is it advisable to do a major in both courses? I know how I would answer that, but I'm very curious to see how the both of you would discuss that.
It depends what field of psychology you're particularly interested in, because if it's clinical psychology and your ambition is to be a professional psychologist, then you're going to have to look at the social sciences, but also with evidence of statistics and competence in statistics and mathematics, because we're fascinating. Well, the human being is fascinating. The human brain is fascinating. Everything in terms of communication, relationship is definitely fascinating. But at the same time, to understand it, it's very complex. And sometimes if it's particularly psychological disorders on the clinical side, you have to look at brain chemistry. You have to look at chemistry and biology, hence pharmaceutical treatments, etc. But if your interest is particularly on social psychology, then that again is an area for specialized degree. It really is down to the strengths and the attributes that a student has interest in. I would say if you've got a balance of both science and the arts, or social science and social science, then go for that middle ground as well. But BSc psychology does require evidence. If you want to choose wisely, choose one of the on-campus partners, because they're all registered with the British Psychological Society as a chartered profession, and that allows you to qualify in your particular area of industry, or I call it industry, but occupation as a psychologist. Yeah, Jenny, interest in psychology or psychological sciences or social?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if your question is, should you study them both at the same time? I mean, as far as I know, that would be probably very difficult in the UK. So you would have to choose one or the other, but think about really where your interests lie most. Are you someone who wants to, which field do you want to work in? Of course, you know, if you feel that that's where your main calling is, but you have an interest in the dramatic arts, it's very easy to do that in your spare time. Every university will have a drama club. You can definitely get involved with that. Also, actually, same way around, if you decide that dramatic arts is the degree that you want to pursue, there will be opportunities to get involved with clubs and societies around psychology at your university, to go to lectures. There are always open lectures at university. So one way or another, although it might be very difficult to study both at the same time at undergraduate level, you can certainly involve yourself with your interest and study the degree that's going to suit you best. One of the bits of advice I always give to students is have a good look at the course content of the degree that you're aiming for as well. Look at the modules that are available to you, because that can also help you to decide whether that's something that you want to spend 3 years studying and potentially the rest of your life doing. So, you know, just
again, making an informed decision, doing research, and then feeling you're getting that best advice and guidance. But at the end of the day, it's your informed decision that makes a difference. Obviously, there are combined degree programs with psychology and drama, but I would put it to you that to have a professional career entry from that first degree of combined arts, BA, psychology, or with drama, you probably need a postgraduate specialism to give it that more definite employability. And often people who decide with psychology at BSc at science degree, they probably need to specialize at postgraduate as area, whether they go into special needs education, clinical practice, whatever. So yeah. Respond to that.
Yeah. Jennifer, I want to thank you both for your time. I know we did go over a little bit, but I think it was worthwhile for everybody. I've just got another question that popped up here. I'm happy to take it if you are.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
Brilliant. Lethabo Dube, thank you very much. I really appreciate your questions here. Please send me an email. Would love to have a conversation with you. He's asking, linking to the previous lady's question, I'm also interested in learning about computer science and biology. I'm presuming here he's looking to find a little bit more information in terms of career aspects of that, and you know where that would fit within on-campus pathways.
That would be for undergraduate subject. Am I right? Yeah. So
yes. Yeah.
Again, doing the research, checking very carefully the range of options and choices, but nearly all our partners would offer options for undergraduate study, whether that's in the field of biology. This is, again, a very popular area. If it was to be a combined program, biology and psychology or forensics, these are areas that are quite specialized. I think carefully thinking about, should I concentrate on a single discipline major, or do I need more time to decide on that particular subject areas, and hence go for a combined science or a combined arts program? All of those will be acceptable. But if you go for a combined route, you may have to anticipate that you would do a postgraduate program as well to give that extra specialism to improve your portfolio, but also for your employability in that particular industry, if it was psychology or biochemical or biology or forensics. So I would say now is the time to think very carefully as to whether you want to do a single subject or a combined. If you need more time, take more time, because it suits you, and that's what you need to calculate and carefully and to evaluate.
I'm going to plug in Global here, and what Global Education will do with you is go through all of this and help research with you, putting together a list of ideas and concepts that that you might not have thought of, and all these services are free. So please do reach out to Global Education. Please visit the website. It's global-education.co.za. My email address is in the chat box, and I will be sending all this content to you as well. So please, Peter, Jennifer, thank you very much. If you could just let people know what your email address is, and I'll gladly share it as well with everybody. Peter will probably hold yours off, and others, we can have another conversation with everybody again in maybe a couple of weeks and have you presenting again.
Well, one thing is, with the questions coming in, George, it seems as if some students should really complete what I call an online aptitude test, which actually identifies one's strengths, interests, and matches it to universities here in the UK or just generally. I mean, I can talk to you a little bit more and maybe give you a link for that student who's just made that sort of inquiry, so that they become more informed. I'm happy to do that. Yeah,
absolutely, would love that. That would be brilliant. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.
All right. Okay. I'll send on the email and contact address, George. Good speaking to you, and good speaking to the participants that have taken part.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We've just got 5 people listening on this, so I'm going to be closing this in a couple seconds. And again, thanks. Really appreciate it, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much to the global team and to everyone who's attended.
Thank you. Go well. Bye-bye.